So, this happened a couple of years ago, and I still don't know if I should have just walked away or if I was just too curious for my own good. But I guess that's the thing with horror stories, right? The second you think you've got everything figured out, something happens that completely messes with your head. Anyway, it all started when my buddy Alex invited me to this old house he was renting out for a weekend. He was moving to a new city, and this house was kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Like, if you were trying to find a quiet, isolated place to just be alone with your thoughts, this was the spot. I'm talking about a tiny farmhouse, surrounded by woods, with a little creek running behind it. Nothing creepy on the surface, but there was just something off about it. I didn't think much of it at first. I mean, I've always been a fan of creepy places, haunted houses, abandoned buildings, that kind of thing. So when Alex suggested I come by for the weekend to help him clear the place out before his big move, I figured, why not? We packed a bunch of bags, grabbed some snacks, and set off on the long drive to this farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. Now, the first night wasn't bad. The place had that musty old house smell, you know, a mix of dust and mildew, and maybe a little hint of something like rotten wood, but nothing unusual. The windows were all boarded up because apparently the previous owners had left in a hurry. I'm talking like the house had been vacant for who knows how long. I swear, though, the moment we stepped inside, I felt weird. There was a weird, tense energy to the place. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but it felt like I wasn't alone. I didn't mention it to Alex, though. I didn't want to sound paranoid. But you know when you walk into a room and you feel like someone's watching you? Yeah, that. We spent the night playing video games, eating pizza, and just chatting. But around 2 a.m., Alex wanted to call it a night. He went upstairs to his room, and I decided to crash on the couch in the living room. It was around 4 a.m. when I woke up. Not to a sound, but to an absence of sound. It was dead quiet, and the silence was weird, like it was too quiet. And that's when I noticed it. The door to the basement. Yeah, this house had a creepy basement, obviously. It was open. Now, I know Alex hadn't gone down there. We'd both joked about the basement earlier, how it was probably filled with cobwebs and old junk that no one had bothered to clear out. So, it struck me as strange that the door was wide open in the middle of the night. I mean, the last time I checked, it had been closed. The door creaked a little as it swayed in the draft, and I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was probably just the wind. But I couldn't shake it. I felt compelled to go down there. Weird, right? It's like something was calling me to the basement. So I grabbed my phone for light and slowly made my way over to the stairs. The air down there was thick, like it was holding its breath. I don't know why I didn't turn back at that moment, but I kept going, the floorboards creaking under my feet. The stairs themselves were old, but sturdy, until I reached the bottom. The moment I stepped off the last stair, I felt it. Like I felt something behind me. I turned, expecting to see Alex coming down, maybe joking around, but the stairs were empty. And that's when I noticed the smell. It was faint at first, but it was there. Something rotting, something decaying. I pointed my phone's flashlight around the basement, trying to see where the smell was coming from. Old furniture, cardboard boxes, and piles of what looked like discarded clothes. Nothing too crazy, just junk. But then, I saw something that made my stomach drop. In the corner of the room, half hidden behind some old crates, was a stack of old, leather-bound journals. They looked ancient. Like I've been left in the basement for decades. Ancient. I bent down to get a closer look. Each one was labeled with a name and date. Emily, 1954. Thomas, 1961. Sarah, 1967. And then the last one in the pile was labeled James, 1984. I didn't even know what I was doing, but I grabbed the one labeled James. I felt this strange pull, like I needed to see what was inside. As I opened the first page, it hit me. The handwriting was neat, but jittery. The first entry read, "I can hear them again. They won't leave. They're getting closer. I don't know how much longer I have before they come for me. It was dated just a few months before the house was abandoned. I kept flipping through the pages, each entry more frantic than the last. James talked about hearing voices in the walls, footsteps when no one was there, and the sensation of being watched. The entries went from paranoid to absolutely frantic, until the last one, which was just a series of scribbles. At this point, I started to feel that cold sweat creeping up my spine. My instincts were screaming at me to leave, to just drop the journal and run. But I couldn't. I had to know more. I skimmed through the rest of the pages, but the last one was the most disturbing. It was written just a few days before the house was abandoned. It read, "They're in the walls. They're in the house. I can feel them behind me. I don't know how to stop it. The shadows are alive. No! No! I froze. The silence around me felt thick. Then I heard it. A soft scraping noise from above. It was so faint I almost convinced myself it was nothing. But then it came again, louder. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Like something, no, someone was moving around up there. I didn't waste another second. I slammed the journal shut, dropped it in the pile, and ran up the stairs as fast as I could. I don't know why, but I didn't tell Alex anything. I just locked myself in the room and waited for morning. I didn't sleep a wink. The next day, I convinced Alex to leave. I didn't want to scare him, but I couldn't stay another night in that place. He agreed, and we packed up and got out of there. When we got back home, I told him about the journal, about everything I'd read. And here's the thing. I wasn't sure if I was just imagining things. Maybe the house was old and creepy, and the journal was just some weird relic from a long-dead tenant. But when I looked up the house online later, I found something unsettling. There had been another tenant, before Alex, and they had mysteriously disappeared without a trace. The weird part? Their name was James.